I never imagined a wedding gown could spark such a heartbreaking rivalry among powerful CEOs. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It all started in that lavish ballroom. Chandeliers sparkling, laughter echoing like music. The air was thick with anticipation. But beneath the surface, something sinister brewed. I was standing there, heart racing, as my best friend Sarah glided into the room in her stunning gown. It was an ethereal masterpiece, delicate lace working magic on her as she twirled. Everyone gasped. It was enchanting. Yet, in the corner, I noticed Barbara, the icy CEO of a rival company, watching with eyes cold as steel. Her perfectly manicured hands trembled, not from awe, but from fury. For Sarah, this wedding was supposed to be a celebration, a dream come true. I could see the joy lighting up her face, but what I sensed lurking in the shadows terrified me. Barbara had built her empire on envy, and today, it felt like the fabric of her carefully crafted world was tearing apart. The whispers I had heard, rumors about Barbara's jealousy, were starting to feel like a tangible force. My heart sank. How could something so beautiful turn so dark? Tension thickened as the speeches began. Each word was a dagger, not just envious of Sarah's beauty, but of the love she would soon claim for herself. I saw faces turn, mouths moving in hushed tones, glances flicking between my friend and Barbara. Each laugh shared felt tinged with bitterness. The room was alive with unease. I felt it in my bones. I wanted to scream, to protect Sarah from what was coming. Suddenly, as if on cue, Barbara stood up. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. My palms were sweaty. She spoke with a calmness that belied a tempest. Isn't it fascinating how a single dress can encapsulate a lifetime of rivalry? Gasps ripped through the crowd. My stomach knotted. I turned to Sarah, who looked confused, questioning. With each passing second, the tension crackled around us. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. I held my breath, waiting for what would come next. And then, just like Theta, secret slipped from Barbara's lips. Something about an old pact, a betrayal we never suspected. My heart raced. What did it mean? What had we stumbled into? My world tilted on its axis. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air in the ballroom had turned electric, crackling with the aftermath of Barbara's revelation. I could see Sarah's face transform from confusion to dawning realization. Her eyes widened as the weight of Barbara's words sank in. Pact? What could possibly link the two of them beyond this seemingly innocuous wedding day? My mind raced, each thought jumbling into the next like dominoes falling out of control. Ladies and gentlemen, Barbara continued, her voice smooth yet laced with malice. The narrative we're living today has deep roots, deep enough to entangle the most unsuspecting souls. Did you ever wonder why I have always considered Sarah a formidable opponent, even before her rise? Because perhaps once upon a time, there was an agreement. In loyalty, in ambition, and ultimately in betrayal. A murmur spread through the crowd, the intrigue feeding the tension rather than alleviating it. My heart ached with a mix of fear and anger. How could Barbara twist the beautiful moment of Sarah's wedding into this? In the tumult of emotions surrounding us, something glimmered, a sliver of opportunity. I had to protect Sarah from this. I needed to shield the only bright light left in the murky waters of this feud. Stop it. I blurted out, the furious words escaping my lips before I could suppress them. All eyes turned towards me, shifting the focus from Barbara's venomous glee to my desperate plea. Today is about love and joy, not your twisted games or your old grievances. For a fleeting moment, I sensed Sarah's gratitude in the way her fingers brushed against mine. A silent acknowledgement that she needed me now more than ever. But Barbara, undeterred, only smiled a predatory grin that sent chills down my spine. "You have no idea what you're meddling in, dear," she said, her tone a sickening sweetness laced with threat. "This is not merely about Sarah or me anymore. It's about loyalty, legacy, and even deeper secrets." The implications hung in the air like dense fog, suffocating. I swallowed hard. What could Barbara possibly know? I refused to let the fear win. "How dare you use this moment to air your grievances? If you have a problem, take it outside." The defiance in my voice surprised even me. I was ready to confront the chaos head-on, to stand against the person who threatened to ruin everything that mattered. Just then, mingling through the chaos like a soft breeze, coalesced a figure from the past. Liam. I hadn't seen him for years. With his calm demeanor and gentle smile, he strode toward us, as if summoned by my desperate need for support. The warmth of familiarity enveloped me, providing an unexpected anchor. Light danced in his green eyes as he surveyed the scene, confusion and worry overshadowing the calm. "What's happening?" he asked softly, his gaze flitting between Barbara and me. "Barbara just threatened to tear Sarah apart," I cried, so overwhelmed that the quiver in my voice betrayed the fear I was trying to suppress. Liam's expression hardened. "We can't let her do this," he said, stepping closer to me, grounding me in his presence. "Let's go after the truth together. If there's a pact in the past, let's shine a light on it. Don't abandon your friend to the shadows." The way he looked at me ignited a flame of determination within. Perhaps strength was born not only of defiance but also of unity in the face of trials. I could feel an ember of hope flickering as the crowd buzzed uncertainly around us in the chaos. Though, I noticed Sarah peel away from our group, her eyes distant, lost in thoughts that echoed Barbara's venom. "I need to understand this," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. I felt the pang in my chest as she stepped away, my heart racing with fear of losing her to those shadows. "Sarah," I called, but she was already maneuvering through the crowd, her gaze fixed ahead as if compelled by a magnetic force no one else could see. I looked back at the gathering storm that was Barbara and unlocked my resolve. Grateful for Liam's presence, worried for Sarah's exposed vulnerability. But just before I darted after Sarah, Barbara spoke again, her voice chillingly sweet. "Isn't it fascinating how one dress can unravel not just a rivalry, but perhaps even a friendship or something more? It's interesting how thin the veil really is." I froze, feeling my heartbeat quicken. What did Barbara mean by that? Had she been unraveling secrets beyond just her feud, hinting at a deeper connection intertwined with Sarah and me? In that moment, doubts surged within, making the ground shake beneath me as fear gripped my heart. The enormity of this confrontation felt like a breaking point, and as I turned to chase after Sarah, I knew this was only the beginning of the dark, unwinding spiral that lay ahead. The atmosphere in the ballroom shifted from electric to suffocating. Shadows danced across the room, ominously reflecting the turmoil that swirled within me. Barbara's chilling insinuation echoed in my mind like a relentless drumbeat. What could she have meant? Was there truly some hidden connection between Sarah and me, gnawing at the very foundation on which our friendship rested? I fought through the crowd, feeling every stare like a judgment weighing me down. It was absurd. How could a single wedding gown be at the heart of such chaos? Yet, the echoes of Barbara's words wrapped around me, suffocating. Glancing back toward the dais where Barbara remained, her triumphant smirk haunting my thoughts, I felt as though I might topple over under the weight of the unknown. But then something flickered in the corner of my eye. It was Sarah, standing near the edge of the dance floor, her back turned to me. The myriad of glittering decorations around her blurred into mere shadows, highlighting the isolation that had suddenly enveloped her. I could see her visibly trembling, lost in a spiral of confusion and doubt. I took a step toward her, and a familiar ache pulled at my heart. "Sarah," I called, my voice barely cutting through the clamor of whispered conversations that had erupted in the ballroom. As she turned to face me, her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, the kind that can only be born in moments of pure vulnerability. My chest tightened. I wanted to reach out, to assure her that we would confront whatever darkness lurked beneath the surface together. But she held a hand up, stopping me. No, she whispered, her voice fragile and breaking with uncertainty. You don't understand. I need to know what she's talking about. The last word hung heavily between us, laden with fear. Sarah, we'll figure this out. I promise, I said, desperation lacing my intentions. You can't let Barbara manipulate you. We're stronger than this. Stronger? A bitter laugh escaped her lips. How can I ever be strong when I feel like I'm standing on the edge of an abyss? What if I did give her a reason to say those things? The rawness of her vulnerability tore at my heart. I saw her walls crumbling under the weight of history she couldn't yet comprehend. Nothing she says defines you, Sarah. I insisted, moving closer until I could feel the heat radiating from her skin. But she recoiled slightly, as if I were an uncomfortable reminder of something she struggled to face. What if I was part of a pact? What if our friendship was built on a lie? The tremor in her voice sliced through me like ice, as the realization of her pain sunk deeper. I wished I could reach inside her and erase the tumult swirling within. Don't you see? I replied, my voice steady. This is what Barbara wants. She feeds off doubt, and she thrives in the shadows. We have to face this together, not let her tear us apart. But my words seemed to hang ineffective, clouds above a storm gathering strength that I end that fragile moment. The gasps of the crowd seemed to drift away as I caught sight of Liam behind me, eyes wide, silently urging me to dig deeper into Sarah's feelings. He knew this battle stretched beyond Barbara, living in the heart of the beautifully innocent yet deeply wounded woman before me. I want to stand alongside you, not just as a friend, but someone who will fight for your truth, I continued, leaning into the depths of my own feelings, willing her to see the fighting spirit in me that had blossomed through the years of knowing her. Whatever it means, I'm not afraid. A flicker of hope danced across her face, but it quickly faded as a new wave of despair washed over her. But what if we're breaking something that can't be mended? She asked, her voice faint. Before I could respond, a sudden commotion erupted from the far side of the ballroom. I turned to see Barbara pointing toward us, her expression gloating as she announced loudly, and here we have the architect of this scandal, desperately trying to hold it all together. Isn't that right, Sarah? Tell them how much he truly means to you. Wasn't there a promise? Long ago? The room fell silent, the pulse of gossip thrumming like an engine ready to roar to life. The vivid lens of attention now shifted toward us, the whispers escalating into echoes of judgment and speculation. What promise, Sarah? Can you share the truth? Barbara's voice hung in the air, taunting, twisting like a knife. Sarah's gaze darted between Barbara's malicious grin and the expectant faces of our guests, her breath quickening. I could see the walls of fear closing in around her, and panic surged through me. Please, just tell me what she's talking about. My heart raced, pounding as if the very answer we desperately sought lay within her. With a look of determination, Sarah took a step closer, her palms trembling. I don't know everything, but I think this is bigger than both of us. The emotional tension expanded as the realization washed over us like a tide, threatening to sweep us under. Just as I opened my mouth to urge her on, her phone buzzed in her pocket. The noise sliced through the tension like a knife, and she whipped it out, her face draining of color as she stared at the screen. What is it? I asked breathlessly, trying to bridge her emotional upheaval. Her gaze shot back to me, pure fear etched into her features. I can't believe it's from my mother. And then, amidst the chaos, she spoke words that felt like a dam breaking. She says there's something I need to see. Something about the past, and this. She held up her phone, her voice a mere whisper as she uttered the word that could change everything. Our lineage. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, threatening to shatter the fragile foundation of everything we thought we knew. I felt the ground shift beneath us as shock rolled through our shared gaze. The path ahead darkened, and the specter of uncertainty loomed larger than ever. The ballroom, once an arena of celebration and shimmering elegance, now felt like a sinking ship draped in heavy layers of anxiety and secrecy. The air grew thick with confusion as the whispers of the guests echoed incessantly, their skeptical gazes boring into our souls. My heart clawed at my chest, struggling against the sheer gravity of Sarah's words. Lineage? What could she possibly mean? Sarah, I said, my voice wavering, what does that mean? What could your mother have to tell you that could tie into all of this? My mind raced, bombarded with fragments of our past, fragments that felt faint and barely graspable in light of this newfound storm. I don't know. Her voice was frantic, cracking under the pressure of those watching, of the looming shadow that was Barbara. But whatever it is, I think it's connected to us, to our friendship. It might explain. Don't say it, I interrupted, panic rising sharply within me. Whatever Barbara's trying to twist, let's not play into her hands. Okay? She nodded, biting her lip as fear flickered in her eyes, a fear I recognized all too well. That fear of a truth that might unravel everything we had built. But beneath it, an ember of determination smoldered, hopeful and bright. At that moment, Liam stepped forward, breaking the trance that held the room captive. Listen to me, he said, his deep voice cutting through the tension. There are always answers, but they take courage to uncover. Your past doesn't dictate your future, Sarah. You both must face it. Nobody understands, she shot back, desperation seeping through every syllable. They only see what they want. A wedding gown isn't just an accessory. It's a marker of something I didn't choose. Her admission struck a chord deep within me, one that resonated with shadows of my own truth. I felt myself stepping closer, wanting to lend her my strength but grappling with my own lingering fears. But we are more than predictions. We are the choices we make, not just echoes of where we come from. We can carve our own paths. As I spoke, something in her eyes shifted. Vulnerability gave way to a flicker of determination. Could it be hope igniting against the odds? I dared to believe, despite the tumult swirling around us. Are you with me? I asked, grasping her hands in mine, feeling her pulse thrumming beneath my touch, steady, yet tinged with uncertainty. Whatever your mother has to say, we will face it together. You don't have to do this alone. Just then, Barbara's voice sliced through the air again, sharp as glass. Oh, how poetic. But what if I told you the truth would tear apart everything you believed? Do you even know what it feels like to walk a lifetime in someone else's shoes? The silence fell again, a heavy mantle settling over us like freshly fallen snow. Sarah blinked back tears, struggling under Barbara's onslaught. I could see her heart wavering, caught between a desperate wish to know and the primal fear of what that truth might unveil. In that instant, Sarah's mother's voice echoed in her mind, carrying fragments of a past shrouded in silence. Bloodlines that were intertwined through decades of hidden ties, secrets woven like threads into the fabric of our lives. Sarah, I whispered, pulling her attention back to me. No matter what happens, we are tethered by reality and choice, not by the shadows of lineage or half-truths. That I watched as she took a deep breath, still trembling. But there was a new glimmer in her eyes, an awareness of the strength brewing within her. What if I have to confront my past? She asked quietly. What if it's more complicated than we ever imagined? I squeezed her hands tighter. Then we will face it. Together. She met my gaze, grounding herself as the fear began to give way to a resolve I had never seen before. Just as I opened my mouth to offer more words of comfort, another buzz came from her phony, a sound that sent a chill through my spine. Her eyes flickered down to the screen. The color drained from her face once more. What is it? I asked, dread creeping into my voice. What if it's my mother? She swallowed hard. What if she knows? Something else, something about Barbara? Before I could respond, she lifted the phone and gasped, her breath caught in her throat. It's a video message. She turned it towards me, but before I could take a closer look, my heart sank at the sight of a familiar face appearing on screen. Someone from our past that linked us in a way neither of us anticipated. Sarah, I whispered, contemplating the wider implications of this new arrival in our narrative. Think carefully. This could change everything. As her finger hovered over the play button, an unexpected resolve washed over both of us. And in that moment of choice, of bravery, truths so deeply buried were on the brink of being unearthed. The room still buzzed around us, lost in a swirl of noise and speculation. but all I could feel was the weight of what lay ahead and how the world outside was about to shift in ways we couldn't begin to foresee. And as the video began to play, our fates twisted ever closer, threading an intricate tapestry we would soon have to unravel. The video flickered to life, painting the screen with grainy hues of the past. My heart raced as I recognized the face of Julia, a figure long shrouded in whispers and guarded conversations. She had once been a close friend to both Sarah and me, intertwined in the fabric of our shared history, yet her departure had always left a lingering cloud of confusion. What could she possibly want now? Just press play, I urged softly, sensing the swell of emotions building within Sarah as she fought the urge to recoil. Her pulse drummed beneath my fingers, resonating with every beat, both scared and exhilarated. With a swift movement, she tapped the screen, and Julia's face burst forth with vivid clarity. Her bright smile flickered for a moment before darkening into something more somber, serious and laced with urgency. "Sarah," Julia said, her voice textured with an echo of the emotions we had once shared, "if you're watching this, it means you are facing truths that neither of us were prepared to confront." Her eyes glistened, full of a myriad of unspoken histories. "I have something important to tell you about your family, about mine. I never meant for things to end the way they did between us, but we can't ignore the past any longer." The air around us shifted. Time felt suspended, drawn tight like a bowstring and ready to release. I glanced at Sarah, the uncertainty knitting her brow, deepening into something more akin to determination. The flicker of fear was replaced by the embers of courage. Perhaps she had realized the urgent need to unearth the truth, no matter how painful. "Julia, what are you talking about?" Sarah asked, her voice faltering yet gaining strength. "What could we possibly have left to uncover that we already haven't faced?" Julia's image crackled, as if wrestling with the horrors of memory. "There are secrets, Sarah, ones that go beyond what you think you know. Secrets tied to your lineage, yes, but also to me, to us. I wanted to protect you, but it's time for you to know why we drifted apart. It's time for you to learn why your mother has always been so guarded." The weight of those words draped over us like suffocating silk, pressing heavily against our hearts. My own memories of Julia, those years marked by laughter now tinted by regret, swirled violently in my thoughts. We had shared dreams, fears, and laughter that enveloped our younger selves like a warm embrace. The rift that had separated us had always felt misplaced, unexplained until now. "Please just tell me," Sarah implored, her voice trembling slightly as she took in that profound knowledge, the gap between her and Julia filled with anticipation. Julia steadied herself, a nostalgic sweetness becoming coated in urgency. "Your mother, my mother, there's a connection deeper than you know. Centers on the decisions we made growing up, the ones that blurred the lines of friendship and family until we couldn't tell the difference. I wish I could tell you that it all ended there, but it didn't. It's eaten away at both families, igniting a rivalry that has stretched well beyond us." "What are you saying?" I whispered, the tiny fractures of her revelation resonating within me, taking root. "The wedding, your wedding, Sarah. It was never meant to be just a celebration. It's a manifestation of the choices we didn't make, but should have," Julia continued, her voice growing strained. "There's more at stake here than you realize. Something has to change, and you're the one who needs to confront it before it blows up any possibility of a future." Just as her image flickered with anticipation, Sarah's phone buzzed violently again, snapping us out of the moment. She looked down, her eyes widening, the blue light illuminating her face as more messages flooded in. "What is it?" I breathed, but fear was already curling around the edges of my consciousness. "More messages from Barbara," she said hastily, biting her lip. She's demanding to speak to me. She knows about Julia's message." My heart sank, battling the reality that was starting to warp around us like a coiling serpent. Was Julia's revelation about to unleash a storm fueled by Barbara's need for control and vengeance? The tension in the ballroom felt electric, the lingering eyes of our guests igniting a chain reaction of anxiety. "Sarah, we can't let them know we're unraveling," I said fervently, trying to cover my own swirling emotions with a mask of resolve. "Hold tight to what you learned from Julia. Do you want to confront Barbara? Or do you want to take time to process? She hesitated, glancing between the phone and me, the battle within her visible and tumultuous. I don't know. If I face her, it may open doors I'm not prepared to walk through. Then let's take one step at a time, I suggested, hoping to reinforce the flicker of strength I had seen earlier. You are not alone, Sarah. Whatever secrets lie ahead, we will uncover them together. But this does feel too big to handle all at once. She nodded, the despair nuanced with determination as we stood on the precipice of change. The video still played in the background, maintaining its haunting melody of unresolved tensions, while Barbara's relentless demands surged through the air like a tidal wave as I watched Sarah clutch her phone. Uncertainty riding on her fragile shoulders, I felt the walls around us beginning to tremble louder, an unseen tempest gathering its strength. And just like that, a single thought crept into my mind: what if confronting Barbara took us further down a path we couldn't return from? As our guests murmured around us, lost in their thoughts, I feared the depths of our heartaches were only just beginning to unfurl, ink-stained and raw. I took a step closer, prepared for whatever was to come, a fierce heart against the tides of uncertainty. The next moment would decide everything, and as the looming shadows of our past pulsed like thunder, we were drawn deeper into a fray that could either bind us or tear us asunder. The tension in the room was palpable. An unspoken agreement hovered between us, the weight of Julia's words resonating like a distant bell. I could feel Sarah's tremor beneath my fingers, a fusion of uncertainty and the dawning realization that the truths of our lives had become inextricably entangled in the web of their family's legacies. For a moment, we stood in a bubble insulated from the world, igniting a glimmer of hope that perhaps understanding could light the way through this darkness. Sarah, I said softly, trying to ground us both in this moment, we need to decide what our next move is before Barbara turns from a looming storm to a tempest. Her eyes darted between the phone in her hand and my face, wrestling with the consequences of confronting Barbara. The thought of facing her mother sent ripples of anxiety through me as well, but also an ember of rebellion. I recalled Sarah's quiet strength, the way she had tackled each challenge throughout our friendship. If anyone could face this moment, it was her. Maybe, Sarah began hesitantly, her voice a mere whisper, if I confront Barbara first, I can regain some control. But the tremor in her hands betrayed her. Are you ready? I challenged, my heart aching for the burden that lay against her chest. With each tick of the clock, a rhythm pulled tighter, inexorably drawing us toward the inevitable. She took a deep breath, her determination flickering. No, I don't think I am. Before I could respond, a figure flitted through an array of guests with purpose. I turned toward the advancing figure and gasped. It was Esther, Sarah's grandmother, her expression a mask of worry. She reached us swiftly, her hands trembling as they clasped Sarah's shoulders. What on earth is happening, darling? Her voice trembled, a soft caress laced with concern. You look as if the world just crumbled at your feet. Grandma, it's complicated, Sarah stammered, her facade cracking under Esther's careful gaze. Esther's eyes searched Sarah's, delving into the layers of uncertainty, as if attempting to uncover hidden truths. I'm not afraid of complicated, love, she said, her tone steady and warm. Just promise that whatever it is, you won't shut me out, like I did all those years ago. I watched, filled with a swell of gratitude, as Esther's presence forged a small bridge through their uncertainty. Moments like these, where light danced into the shadows, transformed fear into something tangible, something that felt a shade lighter to bear. Just as Sarah appeared to draw courage from her grandmother, Barbara's insistent texts buzzed persistently, cutting through the delicate moment like jagged glass. The urgency in the vibrations triggered something primal in me, a reminder of the woman who rarely let a moment escape without uttering her demands. Sarah, I urged once more, steering her attention back to the monstrous reality we faced. We need to face the truth. You have a choice here, and whether you confront her now or later, this mystery won't wait for you to be ready. If Barbara knows, she'll come charging in like a bull, expecting compliance. We can tell her we need time, Sarah replied, but I detected the lack of conviction in her voice. Time was a luxury we no longer possessed. Esther, sensing our growing anxiety, squeezed Sarah's shoulders gently, grounding her. Sometimes, darling, step into the fear just to see what lies beneath. I stand with you. You won't fall. Floating in that moment, the undercurrents of our shared history pulled us deeper. I could feel the swirling tides of attached memories, the whispered secrets, the laughter shared around kitchen tables, and amid it all, the lingering shadow bordered with heartache. The warmth of Esther's hand lingered on Sarah's shoulder, but Sarah's next words struck like lightning. What if there's more we don't know about Julia? What if my mother's secrets tie into this even deeper than we first comprehended? My heart plummeted, her concern a dark, swirling cloud just waiting to unleash the storm. However, beneath that worry twinkled a small flicker of hope. Then let's take the reins, I urged. Let's unearth these connections before Barbara waves her flag as triumphant. Suddenly, Sarah's phone buzzed sharply again. This time a name popping up on the screen, the name that ignited fear within all of us. Barbara. She's calling now, Sarah whispered, her voice quaking despite her resolve. I stepped closer, exuding a strength I didn't fully feel. You can do this, Sarah. Let's face her together. With trembling fingers, she accepted the call. Her voice barely above a whisper as she said, Mom? Sarah? Where are you? You're missing the reception. You need to get back here. Barbara's voice cut through the line, sharp and demanding, the familiar tone suffocating the room's flickering warmth. We have something to talk about, something important, Sarah asserted, learning to wield her voice as is her birthright. I don't have time for your games. Come back so I can introduce you to a few of our guests, Barbara replied curtly. Mom! Sarah's voice rose, infused with newfound courage. We can't pretend anymore. Not after what I learned. A heavy silence fell as I watched Barbara's demeanor shift on the other end. What do you mean? The question dripped with a mixture of curiosity and concern, probing deeper than I expected. Another break in our path, lurking hidden shadows yet to be unveiled. Nothing was resolved. Everything swirled around us without letting go. I felt my breath caught somewhere in my throat as Sarah continued speaking, not backing down, and just like that, I realized we were standing at the threshold between two worlds, the one we had always known, and the one creeping in, eager to reshape our destinies in unforgiving ways. A chill passed through me as my thoughts scattered. I locked eyes with Esther, her silent support a lifeline in the growing storm. Just as I braced myself for the fallout, a knock reverberated from the entrance. A figure stood illuminated against the light, and all at once, I could feel the world shatter, my heart racing as the voice outside the door called in dreadfully familiar tones, Sarah, I need to talk to you now. It was Barbara's voice rising with urgency, a harbinger of chaos, as I realized perhaps the tempest was no longer a distant threat. It had arrived, and the fabric of our realities was on the verge of unraveling. The night was far from over, and the shadows loomed heavy over us like storm clouds ready to burst. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air, the familiar cadence of Barbara's voice eliciting a visceral reaction within me. I felt a cold rush of fear intertwine with a desperate surge of adrenaline. The glow of the hallway light illuminated the thick tension that coiled around us like a tightening noose, leaving little room for escape. Sarah, I whispered urgently, my heart racing, are you sure you want to do this now? She didn't look at me. Instead, her gaze was riveted on the doorway where the tension lived, where Barbara waited, the embodiment of a storm on the verge of breaking. All at once, an ache of empathy washed over me as I saw Sarah fighting an internal battle, her resolve warring against fear. Esther pressed her palm against Sarah's back, reminding her of the strength coursing through their blood. You can do this, love. Stand tall. Mom, just give me a second, Sarah shouted, determination flaring bright in her eyes. For a moment, I thought of all the times Shed stood up to challenges that threatened to engulf her. This was just another mountain of tumult, an obstacle that felt insurmountable but wasn't beyond her reach. Sarah, that's enough. Open the door this second. Barbara's voice turned sharp, cutting into the fragile moment with the finesse of a razor blade. Remember, I'm right here with you. I squeezed Sarah's hand, reminding her that she was not alone, even if shadows threatened to consume her light. We'd make our stand. Taking a deep breath that seemed to dissolve the fear knitting itself through her body, Sarah moved toward the door, her grandmother's eyes steadying her like a guiding star. I felt the air shift, tension withdrawing momentarily as Sarah grasped the doorknob, her fingers trembling. She opened the door, the darkened silhouette of her mother stepping through. An undeniable force wrapped in designer silk and commanding presence. Barbara's eyes flickered with surprise, then narrowed. Sarah, what the hell are you doing? We're having a party. Yes, and I have a lot more to say than any party requires. Sarah retorted, her courage blossoming like spring amidst winter's grip. What about Julia? What do you know? Because what I've learned, it's not what you think. The conversation roared with intensity, and I stood by, watching as the titans clashed. Each challenge was met with a counterpoint of memories past and hopes for a future. The recognition in my heart flickered as Barbara's expression morphed into one of calculated engagement, not anger, as she considered her daughter's words. Julia? What does my sister have to do with this? Barbara's eyes shifted instantly, a glimmer of something flickering within fear, confusion, perhaps even vulnerability. Mom, she's not just some distant relative we keep around to uphold a family image. There's more buried beneath the surface. We can't keep ignoring it, Sarah fired back, her voice breaking with the rawness of her plea. Just then, a figure flitted from the side, a brief glimmer of clarity snatched from the shadows as Julia appeared, her face faintly illuminated. Sarah, you shouldn't be doing this right now. None of this is going to bring any resolution. The atmosphere thickened with a potent mix of shocked gasps. There was surprise on Barbara's face, quickly masked by anger, and confusion etched deep in Sarah's eyes. I felt a knot of apprehension form in my stomach, one that threatened to buckle the already precarious balance we'd fought for. Julia? Sarah's eyes widened, incredulous that her cousin had decided to show up in such a critical moment, like the lightning bolt that splits open the sky. You need to be here for this, no. I don't. Julia snapped, glancing at Barbara with an expression of defiance before turning her attention back to Sarah. You don't understand what you're opening. Just please think before you dive in. The weight of her words slapped against us like an unwelcome gust of wind, an unsteadying shake of disquiet. The casual cruelty of family legacies threatened to drown us all in the repercussions of long-kept secrets and unresolved rivalries. But we need to uncover the truth. Sarah stood her ground. I demand more, all of us do. We deserve to be more than another pawn in someone's unending game. Julia flinched, caught between loyalty to her own mother and the raw honesty entwined with Sarah's declaration. The silence tightened around us with the ferocity of a noose. The tension was electric, the kind that had the power to change destinies. Just then, through the clamor of conflicting desires and unresolved anger, Barbara's sharp intake of breath drew the attention of us all. What do you mean, Sarah? Her voice lowered, suddenly wary. What did you find out? The fabric of our reality felt about to fray, mysteries colliding right in front of us like glass shattering against concrete. There are connections between us, dark ones, that we can no longer ignore. Sarah pressed on, refusing to waver. If you hold the key, it's time to unlock the door. I sensed the faint pulse of hope, though it was overshadowed by the chaos that loomed overhead. The night was still young, and the tempest waiting to unleash its fury threatened to swallow us whole. Sarah, don't, Julia began, reaching for her. But it was too late at that singular moment. The delicate web woven through our intertwined lives snapped, spiraling into an unknown twilight. Barbara's eyes widened with realization and fear, a revelation hanging over us all like a sword suspended on a fraying thread. What are you talking about? She whispered, the color draining from her face. The strength of her facade faltered before us, shadows wresting control, a vivid reminder that not all truths are for the faint of heart. That as we stood together at the precipice, the escalating tension demanded answers, but the answers could consume us. I took a steadying breath, anticipating the storm that was about to break. Would we emerge, reborn from its fury? Or would we be lost in its depths, forever haunted by the darkness that both divided and united us? The echoes of long-buried truths were about to erupt, and I knew there was no turning back now. The shadows loomed heavier now, the air crackling with an unbearable tension as the uncertainties of the past threatened to surge forward like an incoming tide. I watched as Barbara's facade began to crack, the polished exterior she wore like armor showing the subtle fissures of fear and doubt. It was a moment that felt fragile yet monumental, the kind that could change everything. "Maybe it's time you faced the truth, Mother." Sarah's voice was a firm caress against the tumult around us, fueled by a combination of memories and the weight of unresolved grievances. "What were you thinking when you pushed Julia and me away? Were you afraid of what we might discover?" Julia stood frozen, the weight of familial loyalty hanging heavily on her shoulders as she eyed her mother. Barbara's silence pulsed with hidden secrets, and the air felt thick with everything that remained unspoken. I wanted to step in, to bridge the emotional chasm that widened before us, but no one was prepared to wield the scalpel of vulnerability just yet. "Whatever you think you know," Barbara finally managed, her composure fracturing like glass, "you must understand it's not as simple as it seems. There are layers, consequences." Sarah interrupted, her voice rising, emboldened by desperation. "What kind of consequences? The kinds that isolate us within the very family we're supposed to trust? Or the ones that diminish us to pawns in your chess game, Mother?" As Sarah's words landed like cannonballs, I shot a glance at Julia. Her expression was torn, conflict brewing as she flicked her gaze between Sarah and Barbara. It was as if she too were just awakening from a long slumber, aware of the intricate ties that bound her to both sides of this fractious divide. "Stop it." Julia finally stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "We can't do this right now. This is a wedding weekend, and we should be celebrating, not tearing each other apart." "Celebrating?" Sarah exclaimed. "If we're all wearing masks, are we really celebrating? Or just putting on a show another facade?" "Sarah, please," Julia said, reaching out for her cousin. "I know you're angry. I get it. But there's so much we don't understand. We need to think this through. What makes you so certain we can think our way out of this?" Barbara interjected, her voice razor-sharp, yet a tremor betrayed the hurt that slumbered beneath. "You think I haven't carried the weight of decisions I had to make for this family? All of you seem to forget your mother sacrificed everything to keep us all together." Sacrifice, her words hung in the air like a desperate plea, but underneath the sentiment, there was an undercurrent of accusation that twisted my insides. It became clearer that each one of us camouflaged our wounds under the veil of tradition, family legacy, and love. And yet, the heart of the matter resonated with betrayal, stirring up emotions that were as raw as they were complicated. "This isn't just about you anymore." Sarah's voice cracked and echoed through the cramped hallway. "We're living your consequences. Don't dismiss our pain just because it doesn't apply to the image you've created. You need to acknowledge the war you're waging within this family." That I could feel my heart racing, caught in the crossfire of these fierce exchanges that coursed through the darkness, and I longed to remind them all that love often meant stepping into the discomfort. "Let's just step back," I suggested softly, trying to defuse the heavy air and to bring a sliver of gentleness to the turmoil swirling around us. "Maybe we simply need to breathe, to pause. Emotions are running high." But stopping was not what any of them wanted. They were ignited by a conflagration of grief and anger, and I realized how fragile these relationships were, fraying at the edges from long-held secrets and unarticulated fears. Suddenly, without warning, there was a loud crash from the adjoining room, a vase tumbling and shattering against the hardwood floor, as if echoing the turmoil between us. The sound chilled me, jolting us all from the verbal sparring. "Ugh! Not again!" a voice grumbled from the other side of the door, further igniting our fraying nerves. It was Mia, Julia's younger sister, always the bearer of mischief and chaos. "Should we go check?" I offered tentatively, hoping to redirect our focus from the tension in the air. "Not now, Mia. We're right in the middle of something important," Julia shouted in exasperation, clearly overwhelmed. The moment felt even more precarious, the bubbling tensions no longer contained to family squabbles but igniting all of us. "I think it's important everyone knows how close we are to unraveling," I added, my voice trembling as I spoke up. "Today of all days, we can't afford to ignore it." The cracks in Barbara's composure deepened, shadows dancing across her features. "Do you really want to know what lies beneath our surface?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion, her eyes darting between us like storm clouds gathering. I do, Sarah replied, her truth cutting through the suffocating tension wrapping around us. I need to know. We are worth so much more than the secrets we've buried. And then, as if in response to her desperation, the door to the hallway swung open wider and Mia stood there, breathless, her face pale and pupils dilated. You guys, you need to come see this. The gravity in her tone froze us all in place. An unspoken dread settled in the pit of my stomach. What could possibly reveal itself now? Mia, what is it? Julia asked, her voice wavering. There's someone in the other room, Mia stammered. And they're not supposed to be here. As my heart raced, I glanced at Sarah. The weight of our collective truth seemed to pull us closer together, only to balance on the brink of something utterly unforeseen. A specter from the shadows threatening to emerge, shaking the foundations of everything we thought we understood. The hourglass of our shared reality was about to ignite, and with it, the very bonds of our family seemed ready to shatter. The room felt electric, the tension in the air thick as we all stood frozen. Our eyes trained on Mia, who still hovered in the doorway, anxiety etched across her youthful features. What do you mean someone's in there? Julia pressed, her voice filled with a mixture of urgency and dread, as if the walls themselves were about to betray us. Mia's lips parted, but the words caught in her throat. With each second that passed, the silence seemed to stretch heavy, expectant, almost malevolent. I could almost hear the ticking of an invisible clock, reminding us that whatever was about to unfold wouldn't wait for our readiness. Let's just go, Sarah finally spat out, breaking the spell. Her fear seemed to morph into determination. She brushed past Mia, leading the charge. I followed closely behind, torn between curiosity and foreboding. The adjoining room was swallowed in shadows, but there was just enough light filtering in through the windows to illuminate a figure hunched over at the table, surrounded by a scattering of papers and scattered wedding decorations. The eyes turned toward us, wide with unexpected surprise, and a shock rippled through the small crowd as recognition dawned. Melanie? Barbara's voice trembled, an octave higher than usual. Disbelief etched across her features as she stepped forward cautiously. It felt as though we were crossing the boundary into forbidden territory, lines drawn in the sand now being erased in a chaotic swirl. The woman before us was once a fixture at family functions, a dear family friend who held a reputation that made even the boldest businessmen second-guess their decisions. But she had vanished from our lives abruptly, as if the universe conspired to whisk her away, leaving empty echoes of past laughter. No one had spoken of her absence. It was yet another unspoken thread of discontent sewn into the fabric of our family. Melanie, what are you doing here? Sarah demanded, her protective instincts flaring. She stepped closer, crossing her arms as though to shield the rest of us, unleashing the tension coiling in her like a spring ready to snap. I came to help with the wedding, Melanie stammered, her voice quaking slightly. There was an edge of sincerity in her eyes, yet shadows lurked within them. Shadows that held stories and pain I knew we wouldn't be able to untangle easily. I didn't know you were all here. I swear, I wouldn't have intruded on your help. Barbara cut in, her voice rising with the tide of confusion flooding her mind. After all this time, you just thought you could waltz back in like nothing happened. The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. It felt as though years of silence and resentment bubbled up to the surface, and suddenly, the room began to fracture into layers of turmoil. I caught a fleeting expression on Julia's face, a whirlwind of fear, betrayal, and hurt, and it made my heart ache for her. I just wanted to be here for you, for all of you. Things have changed, Melanie said, lifting her chin with a mixture of defiance and apology, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. There was recognition in her gaze, a shared understanding with Barbara that spoke of history, burdens, and long-held grudges. Changed? Barbara echoed angrily, her eyes flashing. Or hidden? What have you been hiding all this time, Melanie? Suddenly, like the breaking of a dam, her emotions surged forth, and she stepped into the light. Don't pretend you weren't scared too, Barbara, just like all of us, every single one of us. The family history surged into our shared consciousness, bringing resentment with it. You didn't just isolate yourself. You isolated all of us. And now you're going to castigate me for wanting to return? After everything that happened when I left? The word, left, hung between us. A chasm of its own, a chasm filled with unresolved feelings, of confusion and pain. I could see that this confrontation had rekindled a long-dormant fire, and it ignited within Barbara too, the kind that had festered beneath her steely exterior. We should never have lost touch, Melanie continued, her voice softening as if she were pleading with both Barbara and the rest of us to understand. There's so much we have yet to face, so much we've lost. Let me guess, Sarah interjected. You're here to promise change, to help us fix everything. But how do we begin when we barely know each other anymore? Mia stood frozen at the back, clearly overwhelmed, with an instinctive sense of foreboding washing over her. I could feel her gaze looking for answers, for safety in this newly shattered space, but echoes of anger rippled through the intimate atmosphere, choking any budding connection. If we can't be honest about our pain, about what brought us here today, Julia's voice broke through the noise, then what future do we have, Melanie? I just want us to find a way past it all. How can we do that if you don't even know who you're talking to anymore? Maybe this isn't just about a wedding anymore, I whispered, sensing the room tighten with tension, our hopes trembling on the brink of collapse. Maybe we need to confront the truth that's been stifling us underneath. And then, as if the universe wanted to test us further, with a rumble that felt almost like a warning, the lights flickered and dimmed. The outlines of the room morphed into shadows, the air thickening with uncertainty, as though it conspiring against us. Whatever we were on the verge of discovering, whatever truth might unravel amidst these chaotic emotions, seemed to dangle just out of reach. It felt like we were on the edge of a precipice, and as I glanced between the faces of the women surrounding me, I sensed we were dangerously close to an explosion. I wasn't the only one who left, Melanie said finally, the whisper trembling through her voice. None of us left entirely by choice. Moments hung heavy in the air as we processed her words, the implications that snuck in like a thief in the night, suggesting depths of betrayal we hardly dared imagine. As eyes darted nervously from one person to another, a chilling truth began to take root. Who else are we missing? Sarah breathed out, an apprehensive edge creeping into her voice, the implications of what Melanie had said marking a pivot between us. The silence deepened, a silence that threatened to swallow us whole. I felt the weight of that question sit heavily among us, an uninvited guest threading its way into our already tense atmosphere. Whatever cracks had begun to form now felt like gaping chasms, revealing the raw, jagged edges of our familial landscape. I shifted nervously, casting glances around the room at Sarah, Julia, and Barbara. Each woman bore an expression of confusion intertwined with a flicker of understanding. Whatever layers had just been peeled back hinted at secrets we had scarcely dared to consider. Who else? Sarah repeated, her voice barely a whisper. She seemed to sense that the answer was closer than we thought, lingering like an unread letter, an echo of the past reverberating through time. The urgency hung in the air. I could almost hear the heartbeat of shared history throbbing, beckoning us to come closer and listen. I think you all know her, Melanie said finally, meeting our shocked gazes with a mix of sadness and resolve. Someone who stood in the shadows of our family for years, left to wander her own path. Someone who is still a part of this family, even if we've forgotten her. A collective breath caught in our throats. I recognized the look in Melanie's eyes, a blend of sincerity and pain. Without needing to speak the name, we all felt her presence darken the doorway of our minds. The echoes of her laughter, her indomitable spirit, the choices she made that led to her disappearance all came rushing back, drowning us under the tumult of old memories. Stop, Barbara said suddenly, her voice sharp. You can't just throw around accusations without proof. If you think this conversation is going to just dismiss old grievances, it's not just accusations. It's the truth, and that truth is louder than any of the lies we've told ourselves, Melanie said, cutting Barbara off with a fierceness that raised the hairs on the back of my neck. You think we've moved on, when all we've done is build walls between ourselves and the very connections we desperately need. The shelves of our collective history surged around us, whispering tales of betrayal and sacrifice. It was the kind of truth buried under layers of pride and pain demanding to be unearthed if we wanted to escape the cycles of resentment that had dictated our lives for so long. "Then let's face her," Sarah interjected, her voice steadier now, fueled by the winds of revelation. "If our past is intertwined, we need to know where we all fit. Let's reach out in whatever way we can find, before this closet of secrets consumes us alive. I refuse to reach for someone who's only going to tear apart what little I have left." Barbara shot back, eyes blazing with both anger and fear. She was grappling with the frailty of history, an elaborate web woven with tales that cut deep. Yet beneath all that was a flicker of vulnerability, a silent plea for acknowledgement. It begged the question, what was truly at stake? I couldn't help but feel drawn toward this uncharted territory, a place where revelations could twist the very fabric of our identities. We were standing at a precipice, leaning into the storm that loomed, ready to gust us from our safe harbors. I was terrified, but I finally spoke up, my heart thumping wildly. Maybe the best way forward is to acknowledge who we are and face the consequences together. Together? Julia echoed, parsing through her own emotions, her expression shifting from anger to a glimpse of hope. But will that matter if there are divides left unspoken? We are family, despite the pain, I said gently, offering a bridge over the broken pieces scattered across our lives. We need to embrace our truths, however messy they might be. The risk might be worth finding each other again. Nervous glances passed between us, edging toward a place of shared understanding, an olive branch wrapped in the stark reality of acceptance. But refusing to step back from that precipice was daunting. We each stood on the edge, staring into the heart of chaos where uncertainty reigned, and it demanded answers only we could provide. Then, just as the atmosphere felt poised to shatter, the door swung open, wider, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows, stepping out from the memory-laden walls of our past, the person none of us were quite ready to confront. And as that figure took a step forward, almost regal in her poise yet tinged with vulnerability, the realization hit. She was the missing piece, the thread that stitched us all together through pain and joy. "Mom?" Sarah's voice trembled with an unexpected mix of anger and relief, her betrayal bubbling to the surface. "Is it really you? I never meant for it to end this way. For any of us," the woman said, her eyes shimmering with a blend of tears and strength. "But there comes a time when we must set aside our fears for the sake of love, when family comes before pride. And if I have to bare my soul to do that, so be it." That I end that moment, with hearts bared and ever-dwindling remnants of resilience shining through the darkness. We stood on the brink of an emotional tidal wave ready to break and reshape everything we had known. The shadows might flutter dangerously close, but the light we had kindled through vulnerability could blaze brighter, illuminating paths woven with forgiveness and understanding. And just when I thought the storm would engulf us in the chaos of the past, I reached for Sarah's hand, linking our fears and hopes in that one simple gesture. A silent vow that we would not let our family's story be dictated by past mistakes, but instead would become the authors of our futuria tale of redemption wrapped in love. "Whatever it takes," I breathed out, the words heavy with promise and liberation. "This could lead us to the truth we've been seeking." Together, as the shadows converged around us, the lady from the past stepped boldly into view, pulling us toward a reckoning that we had long resisted. In that precious moment, we had no idea what lay ahead, but one undeniable truth hung in the air, binding us all together while the night was dark. Love would light the way home. Amidst the turmoil of discovery and pain, I clutched Sarah's hand tightly, an anchor in the tempest of uncertainty, knowing that whatever emerged, would face it, heart first, inching closer to the resolution of our story. Because somewhere within the chaos of the night, I felt the first flickers of forgiveness and new beginnings dancing on the edges of our hearts, ready to carve a new path forward. And so, amidst the storm, we stood united, facing the truth that had waited long enough, revealing the beauty of resilience that lies in love, hope, and our unbreakable bond.